Jenny here, and today's video is going to talk all about new legislation that's been introduced in the House and whether or not borrowers will truly prosper under the new act. Stay tuned. Thankfully, there's this handy acronym, PROSPER, because it stands for Promoting Real Opportunity, Success, and Prosperity Through Education Reform, which is a bit of a mouthful. Essentially, it's designed to replace the Higher Education Act of 1965. And I think it's reasonable. Let's get real. Times has changed a little since '65. Rather than get into the bill bit by bit, we're going to talk about my takes on the best pieces of Prosper and the worst. There's a ton of information out there. I'll link you to documents that will go through more changes than what we talk about in this video. I'm going to focus on the best, the worst, and places Prosper could use some improvement. Let's start off with the best of Prosper. Prosper is going to mandate the reporting of meaningful information for borrowers that can help them make decisions about their education based on financial drivers. No one wants a degree that assassinates their future finances. Unfortunately now, there's not a lot of transparency, but Prosper proposes bringing some of that to a handy dashboard that students can easily access. What type of information will that include? The most useful information will be the completion rate, average debt of borrowers, and the average salary of graduates at 5 and 10 years post-graduation. This will give borrowers some objective data to compare across universities offering the same program. Another great thing about Prosper is that it simplifies the loan options. Right now, there are 6 types of federal loans. Prosper simplifies them to one loan, which is deceptively named because it's really 3 separate loans. There will be an undergraduate loan, a graduate loan, and a parent loan. So what about the bad? There's some pretty bad stuff in Prosper. Things that would really have a negative impact on borrowers. So let's get into those because this is likely where all your fears lie. The biggest change would be the elimination of a time-based loan forgiveness option. Essentially, when Prosper simplifies these loans, they're not going to offer time-based loan forgiveness any longer. So today, after 20 to 25 years in an income-based repayment plan, you're out. If you choose public service loan forgiveness after 120 payments or 10 years, you're out. Alternatively, Prosper allows borrowers in the income-based repayment plan to pay no more than they would have under the 10-year standard repayment plan. That protects them from negative amortization, where you don't keep up with the interest and so it continues to get added on the principal and then you collect interest on that and so you can never get out of debt. It protects borrowers from that, but it still doesn't protect borrowers who overborrowed for the degree that they have. That means if it's going to take you forever to pay off however much it would have under a 10-year standard plan, you can just pay on it forever. Why is this so problematic? Well, with other types of debt, like credit card debt, if you get in over your head, you can discharge them in bankruptcy. Unfortunately, when it comes to student loan debt, unless a borrower dies or becomes permanently disabled, there are relatively little options for loan discharge. If a borrower gets in over their head under Prosper, they're stuck. Another alarming change is that Prosper caps graduate student loans. While I don't think a cap on the loan amounts available to students is necessarily a bad thing, I think it's difficult for the federal government to determine what that cap should be. For example, if you're talking about a master's program, like a master's of business, and comparing it to a professional degree like medicine, both are considered graduate school and both would have graduate school loans. Unfortunately, the tuition for the College of Medicine is going to be a lot higher, and the cap may not adequately cover that. In combination, Prosper actually proposes eliminating eligibility for graduate students to participate in work study. This kind of compounds the problem of potentially not enough money to actually go to school. I think this is an option that should be left up to schools to decide so that they can base it off their own tuition. Here are a couple suggestions I have that could make Prosper better for borrowers. First, I think they have to offer a time-based forgiveness option. Even borrowing responsibly, there is not enough data available on all degrees at all institutions for borrowers to truly make a financially driven decision. That means they could borrow more than they can pay back without even realizing it, and that's only borrowing for tuition and books. That's not borrowing extra. That's just flat out borrowing for tuition and books. Think about the information you need to decide. You need to know what the average debt a student graduates with. You want to know what the job placement rate is. And you want to know how much that graduate makes their first year out of college. Today, good luck finding that information, because ideally you would be able to price shop just like you can with a new computer. You can see who has the lowest price for the same thing. But you can't really do that with colleges. There's no easy tool for that, which means borrowers can end up spending a lot more than they're able to pay back because they just didn't have enough information to make the right choice. If you add that to repeated tuition hikes and a system designed to keep students spending, it's amazing anyone gets out of there without torching their finances. In addition, even though the majority of borrowers are responsible, you're ultimately asking 18-year-olds to make a decision about what they want to do for the rest of their life, and then giving them access to tens of thousands of dollars to do it. What happens if they change their mind in 3 years? Then they have education that may not apply, and they may end up having to be in school a lot longer, which comes with a higher bill. I don't think that we should allow decisions made at that point in life to chase someone around for their whole life. And I'm not saying that we should give borrowers a get out of jail free card, because that's not what time-based loan forgiveness is. It's saying, hey, you've made reasonable payments for a reasonable amount of time, and you're done now. You don't have to let this debt hold you down and keep you from investing in your retirement. At some point, people need financial freedom. Another thing I think Prosper could do better is offer strong incentives for colleges to control costs and demonstrate outcomes. Prosper could directly tie a college's access to federal funding to program performance and borrower outcomes. If specific institutions or programs fail to demonstrate livable debt-to-income ratios, the program loses funding. I know this is a radical idea, because why would you take funding away when part of the problem is that there's not enough money, that things are too expensive? Removing access to funding prevents predatory programs from racking up debt for borrowers without delivering on the promise of higher income through higher education. And a lack of funding would steer borrowers away from this type of program. Right now, college tuition is on an indefinite upward trend. At some point in time, all degrees will be unaffordable. Tying something like federal funding to debt-to-income ratio and performance is the incentive colleges need to control costs, because right now there is no incentive. You may have noticed one thing that's missing, and that's my stance on public service loan forgiveness. When Prosper eliminates loan forgiveness, they're going to get rid of PSLF too. Here's the thing, I'm not opposed to getting rid of that program in the long term. Now, hear me out. I know that a lot of you are going to be pissed about this, but the fact of the matter is, PSLF attracted borrowers it was never intended for. A large percentage of borrowers applying for PSLF are high-income, high-debt borrowers who can afford their debt, albeit with some added financial pressure, whether there's loan forgiveness or not. They can pay for their debt. That's not who the program is meant for. I do think PSLF could be a good program if it was restricted. Essentially, should be restricted to a specific subset of borrowers whose public service work means they have to take mediocre pay, and it's not enough to make up for the debt that they had to incur to get the education to do their job. This would meet the need of those individuals while preventing wasteful spending. PSLF needs stricter criteria so that only borrowers who need PSLF to work in the public sector can get it. Without these limiting criteria, I'm in favor of its elimination so that that money can be used for borrowers who are truly in need of loan forgiveness. The caveat to this is, I think existing borrowers have to be grandfathered in if they've made a reasonable number of monthly payments, because otherwise we're going to slap them with a ton of interest because they counted on a forgiveness promise that was broken. And I don't think that's acceptable, because they made the best decision they could with the information they had, and then we changed the rules. I know that my opinions on these topics have many more than one viewpoint, so I would love to hear what you think about it. Let me know in the comments below, and I hope you guys enjoyed this little update on the contents of the Prosper Act. Bye!